Hello, berries, and I'm coming to you live here with the developer update of September 2021. Um, Now, I've been reading some of these things posted on here, and well, DBD is dying. I know that some people might not see it that way, and some are actually quite content and happy with what's coming, but I am most certainly not. The very first thing that Behavior wrote here is that skill based matchmaking is going to happen. We can't stop it. For some reason, Behavior were really happy with the 1 week of MMR testing, or SBMM, whatever they call this bullshit. Since the update of 5.2.0, there will be skill based matchmaking in DBD. Now they're talking here about percentages, about how amazing this is, and I am not happy with this, not at all. In any aspect of this game, there should not be skill-based matchmaking in DBD. I'm putting my foot down and willing to argue the fact that this game will never have skill based gaming, because in a lot of situations, most of the situations, skill has nothing to do with DBD gameplay. And I'm saying this as a player who has 4,000 hours in game. There's way too many variants in DBD. Keys that give you an immediate escape in a most unjustified way. Brand new parts that allow you to finish 15% of a generator, along with Prove Thyself and Discord. Friends that talk over the call, which I got no problem with people doing that, but how can you say that there's skill based matchmaking when I'm just, I don't know where to start to even I don't want to rant, but at the same time I'm thinking to myself how boring and tedious DBD is going to be on the higher ranks. If you guys noticed, when I streamed these past few weeks, I was constantly laughing in the stream about how often we meet nurses, blights, spirits, death slingers, and other killers that have very little counterplay in the 1v1. And it's understandable why people play these killers. The survivors feel very oppressive when it comes to gens in the higher ranks. So people try to compensate by finishing the 1v1 chases very efficiently, thus making the game very efficient and boring. On higher ranks, I hardly see any any diversity in gameplay. Whether I don't see any survivors attempting to sabo, I don't see any survivors attempting to go for flashlight saves. I haven't seen any killers trying to play Myers or Pig. It was always the same shade of gray. Killers playing the same four killers that are very powerful. Nobody dares to play the lower tier ones. Survivors are pummeling gens or chasing the killer. There is nothing else in between. That's what I felt was going on in the 1 week of the MMR. And to my surprise, Behavior for some reason sees fit to release skill-based matchmaking in a game that lacks so much balance that it's not even funny. People are always complaining that the ranking system is bad. That like someone in red ranks that has 400 hours will pair off with someone else in red ranks that has like 7,000 hours. And I understand the frustration of that. But at the same time, I'm thinking that if a killer that has like 4,000 hours, for example, like me, will constantly be facing four survivors that each and every one of them has thousands and thousands of hours, there will not be any type of gameplay if I choose to play lower tier killers, or if I choose to play a fun build that is not oriented around gen defense. I I don't know what to do now. Like I know that I'm scared that after the 5.2 patch, DBD is going to be exactly what it was for the 1 week of the MMR.
Just change the game.
If it's gonna be a sweat fest every time I enter DBD, then my time in DBD is limited. And it's such a shame. I built so many fond memories and so many amazing moments playing this game, but for some reason, people want to make this a competitive thing. It never has been. I actually enjoy the lack of balance in this game because it allowed me to play gimmicky builds and fun, just silly perk builds that will not work on higher levels. Whether if it's sitting with Insidious Bubba near a gen that they just kicked and waiting for someone to come by, whether if it's playing with Deception as a survivor. But from now on, it's always going to be decisive. It's always going to be Dead Hard. It's always going to be Borrow Time. It's always going to be Ruin. It's always going to be Corrupt. It's always going to be Nurse or a Blight.
Little spirits.
Or a Spirit. And I just don't know what to say. This is very, very scary and frustrating. And the only consolation here we have to this atrocious, terrible thing called skill based matchmaking is we're going to receive an incentive of 250,000 blood points for the people of the highest rank at the end of each month. As you all know, blood points, at least for me, never been something that I really needed. What with the events of the new year and blood point events and just barbecue and chili, it's so many things like are there to give you blood points. I don't feel like that currency means anything anymore. The Cenobite is going to be released with some changes here. We're thrilled to see so much excitement for the Cenobite on the player test build. I haven't seen any excitement. On the contrary, I've seen only people, for the most part, complain about how weak he is. I've seen Scott June, I've seen Zubat, myself included. What's Darva, True Talent? Every content creator that I checked were saying that the Cenobite is lackluster. I'm actually not that impressed about this chapter. It doesn't include a map. It doesn't include survivors. And it just includes a killer that has gameplay which is very similar to Clown and Freddy Krueger, of slowing a survivor down in order to be able to nail a hit. So, whatever. We've been watching and reading for feedback very closely. That said, we've made some changes between the PTB and the release. Please know that this by no means is final. We'll continue to monitor. Yeah, we know. First, we published the way chains spawn to make them perform more consistently. We fixed an issue which could cause chains to spawn behind obstacles and corners and immediately break as soon as they would connect. I never had that happen, but okay. If a chain fails to spawn, the system will now attempt to spawn another chain much sooner. Finally, if a chain is broken by the environment or descended by himself, a new chain will spawn considerably faster than before. These changes will make chains much more effective in tight areas with a lot of obstacles. Yeah, so that was the biggest problem of the Cenobite, at which case, like playing him on Larry's or other closed maps was really a drag. We've also simplified the way the chain hunt works. On the PTB, the number of chains that spawn during the hunt would depend on the number of survivors remaining. Instead, the hunt will now always spawn a cluster of 3 chains. I did not actually knew it was dependent on the amount of survivors. It was said absolutely nowhere, not even in the killer's description. With each chain appearing 3 seconds apart, with an increasing interval between clusters based on the remaining survivors. This will keep the hunt feeling meaningful without getting out of hand as survivors die. Finally, deciding when to solve the lament configuration is something we want to leave up to you. But keeping it forever shouldn't be ideal. Why? Up till now, I noticed that if someone keeps the box on him, the chain hunt will never happen. That's what I noticed in the PTB. Okay. With an increasing interval between clusters. Wait, where was I? Yeah. In the PTB, the survivor carrying the box would have a chain spawn and attempt to latch onto them every few seconds while they were interacting with something. This would slow your progress down, but could be a worthwhile trade-off for preventing chain hunts entirely. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. Why are you canceling overall the entirety of the killer's half of the power just by making one survivor suffer from an occasional chain? Just make that survivor, you know, look the killer or something, and then he's not gonna ever have chains spawn on anyone. I don't know. It just seems like it's worth for one survivor to get a little bit screwed over here or there, rather than having the entire team suffer from the chain hunt. This means that the person holding the box neglects it for too long. A chain hunt. Wait. We're changing the lament configuration to only pause the timers of other survivors, but not the carrier. This means if the person holding the box neglects it for too long, a chain hunt will start for them only. Still not worth it. It's still worth keeping the box. This chain hunt is in addition to the occasional chains that spawn while interacting with something, making it very difficult to ignore. I don't know about that. Still, you're canceling a 1v4 ability only to screw over one survivor. That survivor really has to suffer in order to try and solve that box. Because on higher levels, survivors will always try to hurt themselves. Like a one individual will try to hurt himself if that means helping his entire team. That's how I usually see optimal and good survivors play. So I still think this gives no incentive for a survivor to start fixing the box. We got a few more changes to get through. So, lightning round. Tweaked getaway placement to be easier on maps with multiple floors. This will prevent cases where you look ever so slightly down and end up accidentally placing your getaway on the floor below. Added a brief immunity period to chains after being unhooked. This will prevent a survivor who was just unhooked from being chained before they can move. That's stupid. Yes, the chains are so oppressive, but a Leatherface that immediately hits someone with a chainsaw while he's just got unhooked, that's nothing. That's just a scratch. Oh man. Oh no, the survivor will suffer from a slowdown as he gets off the hook. There's far worse things he can suffer. I'm just saying. And if the Cenobite is that close to a person who's on the hook, then you should probably not release a survivor. Whatever. Added the maximum control time of gateways, 6 seconds. The Cenobite power is meant to be fast and paced and used in chase, not to be placed somewhere and wait. Yeah, okay. I've never seen any other use for using it outside of a chase. If I would succeed in capturing someone with a chain and I was not in chase with them, I usually would not benefit from it. That's what I felt in the PTB. Added a brief cooldown to the solve interaction to prevent spamming. Spamming the interaction would give the killer way too many notifications. Yeah, I had that happen. That was really unpleasant. Increased blood points for the Cenobite scoring event across the board. Blood points earning were lower than anticipated in the PTB. Measly change. As always, we'll continue to monitor the Cenobite performance over the next few months to determine if further changes are necessary. So essentially, if you're carrying the box, you're going to be even more punished than you were in the PTB. You got to be punished really severely to make a survivor not want to make a survivor want to interact with the box. Yeah. Performance issues. Before we sign off, we wanted to take a moment to reassure you and your team will actively be working on various performance issues affecting some platforms. Each bug needs to be investigated and fixed separately, but we are aiming to have fixes for some of the remaining issues over the next few updates. The first of these fixes will appear in the 5.2 update, which will address hitches when using dead hard, powering a generator, or healing a survivor. Rest assured that we have not forgotten or moved on. Smooth performance is still priority for us. With that, we've reached the end of the developer update. We look forward to hearing what you think of these changes. Okay. Wonder where can I write that all of this is fucking atrocious. This is a nightmare. So guys, what can I say? Behavior did it again. I think this is the final blow that they can give to their game. Making the most unbalanced game a competitive skill-based game is just absurd. Absurd to me. Yeah, nice. I got no problem with DBD maybe being skill based if they would like balance out literally fucking everything, but that is not feasibly possible because there's way too many things they need to balance, and they've never succeeded in fully doing it because it's an impossible job, and I don't envy them. But at the same time, then why release skill based matchmaking? I might play DBD. If so, I can only do it casually. I'll only play on lower ranks. I want to play for fun. I never wanted to play for the competitive aspect of this game. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully the skill-based matchmaking is not going to be as terrible as I think it is.